Guys, welcome to Third Eye Champagne. I'm Kirsten Langston, author and intuitive. I have a guest today. As you can see by the dual screens here, I have a guest today. This is Mona Loring, and I'm already in love with her. I'm already in love. We're already in love.
I'm in love with you back.
It's happening. It's happening. My Gemini moon and her Gemini sun are just like, hello. We're just vibing. We're vibing. So Mona is here because she is a shamanic healer, and that is something that I am really curious about. Not just curious, like almost like obsessively curious about, because I find it to be very, very strange. It's not like other stuff, right? You guys, if you've ever, we're going to get into it. She's going to explain all of it, but it's not like other stuff. It's very, very different. It's very, very strange. And I'm sort of obsessed with it. She also has this really awesome podcast, which I'm going to be on. It's called The Conscious Healing Podcast with Mona Loring. And I have gone through several episodes now. It is very informative stuff. Let me tell you this. So what have we talked about on this podcast so far? What have I listened to? I have heard about astrology, beginner's astrology. We've done beginner's mediumship. We're going to be doing beginner's tarot with yours truly on T.
Yeah.
She talks about her experiences. And here's the deal. This is what's so cool about what's happening right now is Mona is basically this is her coming out party. Like this is like she's coming out the closet, you guys. So I'm gonna let her tell her story because I think it's inspiring and like so. I'm gonna start with this because I'm like ready to jump in, girl. You could say I'm like going a mile a minute. I'm ready to jump in. So you lived in the closet, like you were in the woo-woo closet. You were like, I'm not telling anybody. Nobody needs to know. You know, you're professional, you have like this other business. The healing stuff is not your main thing, unlike most people.
Yeah. So I pretty much always lived in the spiritual closet because even as a teenager when my abilities, unlike you where you're just like, I remember when we were talking, you were like, I've always been this way. I've been told by others that I've been this way since I was really young, but I really don't think so. I at least was not nearly aware of anything until I was 13. And my story actually began with a Ouija board that I got for my birthday.
Oh my God. We were not allowed to fuck with those.
I won't let my kids touch them. I've worn them at such an early age.
I can't believe it. A Ouija board. My mom, I will never forget this. My mother, when we would go to slumber parties, she was like, anybody, she's doing the gritted teeth. When my mother does the gritted teeth, I listen to this day.
Yes.
So yes. If anybody pulls out a Ouija board, you call me right now when you're coming home. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
So what happened?
The real thing. So, it all starts as, what's the saying? Like it all starts as fun and games. Right. We got the Ouija board and it was me and a couple of my friends and we were just sitting in my living room and everything seemed okay. We were like, are you pushing it? I'm not pushing it. Are you pushing it? And it started moving. It did its thing. And it wasn't even anything like this dreary, crazy, scary kind of moment. But I don't remember the perfect facts because it's like, I don't remember exactly how it unfolded, but it was like within days after that, I would notice like weird things and that I never did before. And I was just like, I feel like something's around me. And I'm kind of obsessed with this Ouija board and I want to use it again. And so I started using it again. So anyway, like the way that you would just kind of get into it, it started that way. And then it started to get to a point where I was like, who are we talking to? Right. Like and that's the number one reason why they're like, do not use one. You are literally inviting, it's a portal,
Yeah.
And so it got to a place where for me, it was a really good thing because it opened me up to this world and it blew my third eye freaking open. But at the same time, there were times when scary feelings would come, it's like you can't, I never saw anything scary. I just felt it. Yeah. I think I didn't let myself completely see that way, but I discovered that I was a channel. And so I would be sitting here. It makes me laugh so hard when I look back on it, thinking that this like 13-year-old girl's like chilling with her friends, and all of a sudden she's like, and whatever the heck it is that I'm saying, and I'm like, you know, your soul's name is such and such, and this is what you really should be doing with your life. And I started telling him about like soul's purpose and crazy things that until I read these books later in life, I didn't even understand that they were actually things that people write in books. So that's what's really cool now. I'm like, oh my God, like I literally said that as a 13-year-old not knowing what it was. Granted, when I would channel that way, I would remember probably 10% of what I said.
Yeah.
Partially because of control, didn't even know what I was doing, all of that, right? And so that's how my journey started. And that's a weird way for it to start. And that's not usually the way, you know, I was not from a family where we were open about spirituality. And I mean, my mom was very spiritual, but, and she was kind of religious, but she was more spiritual. And I come from a Muslim family, even though they don't really practice that. She was always really spiritual, you know. She was always like, just think of God as a light. And like, you know, she'd say things like that to me. So it was always like, I was around that, but you know, I would remember telling my dad, like, you know, my friend passed away and I'm feeling, and he'd be like, what are you talking about? Like, don't talk about that, you know? So he shut me down early. And that's when I started to bring it back to your question. That's when I started to go back into the closet, because I was like, okay, my parents think it's weird. So first, like it's your environment, right? So my parents think it's weird. I have no friends that can relate. And my friends thought it was awesome because they're like, this is cool. Like, you know, so the ones that were around me thought it was really cool and they liked it. And it was something I couldn't control. There was a lot of fear. I would go to bed and a lot of nights my bed would be shaking and it would freak me out and I wouldn't know why things like that are happening. So even though it was a long time, I shut it down after a few years. And I was like, you know what, I'm done. I met my husband, my now husband, who was my boyfriend then in high school. And he was a total skeptic up until about a year ago. He was like, didn't even believe me. He was like, I don't know what to think. This world is crazy. I don't understand. Like, you do you, but I don't believe it, you know? And luckily he's turned around, because it's kind of hard being married to someone who you're like, if all people, you should believe me. If you don't believe me, no one else will.
Right.
So that was always my goal. But I just shut it down. And it wasn't until I had my first kid, my son, at 25, and I was with my sister. I'll never forget. We were on a walk, and, you know, I'm just pushing the stroller, and I apparently channeled. And she was like, Mona, you just channeled again. This is crazy. You haven't done this in so long. And I was like, no. Shut it down again. Didn't happen again.
So wait, so hold on. Yeah. I want a scenario here. So you're walking down the street, you're pushing a stroller, your sister's with you.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're Oda Mae Brown. Like all of a sudden you just start like talking, and you're just like, you don't.
Literally.
So consciously, did you like lose time?
Yeah.
Ah, shit.
I don't like that.
That's scary as shit.
Like that.
Yeah.
It is scary. And it's a terrible feeling of lack of control, and not to mention when you don't know what it is coming out of you then, right? Like it was like what, and again, it was talking about her soul and, you know, this kind of stuff. Luckily I wasn't channeling anything dark, but I didn't like it. And you know, she knows that, because she'll be like, do you know what you just said? I'm like, no. And so shut it down. Then it's not till I visit Kauai for the first time. And there's something about that island that just clicked for me. And it brought in the light stuff, you know, and it brought in, wait a second, this is actually really beautiful. Why am I shutting this out? And so slowly but surely I start reading Wayne Dyer and just like all kinds of things, you know, the books that are like the gateway books, right?
Right.
And reading one thing to another, getting super interested in law of attraction, this and that. And I started to just click, because I always say on my podcast, like, it's not that you're learning, you're remembering, right? And so I started remembering things that just made sense to me and clicked. And after that, I was like, you know what? I can embrace this, but I was still in the closet. You know, I was just like, man, I'm a publicist. Like, I don't want my poor clients affected by what I seem like. And, you know, I always felt like you had to be labeled in one thing or another, because you actually learn that as a publicist too. You're like, what's your brand? You're one thing. You can only be one thing, and then you can tell people all the other things you could do. I used to always use like J-Lo as the example of like, you know, you got to start out with one thing. You start out with music, or you start out with movies, and then you can do everything, you know? And so I kind of programmed myself to think that. And it wasn't until this year, COVID, where I had been practicing, and I had a healing business on the side. And I had a few celebrity clients of mine because I'm a celebrity publicist. And I had friends and referrals of friends that were seeing me as a healer. And I was just kind of keeping it quiet because it was how it worked. I'm busy anyway. So I was like, you know, that's enough business for me. And I'm not doing this for the money. I'm doing it because I genuinely love it, and it feels like my purpose.
Right.
COVID hits, things get scary. Things shut down. I have a minute where so I have two PR companies. I have Conscious Living and I have MLC PR. MLC PR shuts down. Like I have to furlough staff. Like it got crazy it was like 6 weeks max, but in my world, it felt like a long time. It was a long time. And so I was like, this is it. This is my sign. Like, you do tarot. I got the tower card about my company. I was like,
oh shit.
Oh, okay. And so I'm like doing tarot, and it's like things are shutting down, things are shifting. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to meditate on this. And through meditation, I got the whole trust and flow thing, which is something I was one of my first episodes on my podcast, because that's what I'm going to do. That's all you can do right now. And through that process of trusting and flowing, I was like, you know what? I'm not going to be afraid anymore. Like why do I care if people know I'm psychic? You know, why do I care if people know I'm a medium? Like, it's actually bugged me that, like, you know, so-and-so has been visiting you and they're right behind you and I haven't been able to tell you, you know?
Right.
So I embraced that, and I literally like I have a private Instagram for just like, you know, people who are closer to me. And I came out. I like literally did a post on like, I have a podcast now. And I really wanted to be like, I'm coming out. And my sister's like, please don't.
Yeah, don't do that.
She's like, you're publicist, you know, like, you know, there's a level here. You have to be, you know, professional. And so I basically was just like, hey everyone, I'm doing a podcast. And that's how I came out, basically, was like, I'm doing a podcast on this because I'm psychic. Right. And I'm a shamanic healer, and I've been training. Right. And so the reception's been awesome. I mean, you know, when you do something and you're aligned and it's meant to be that way, like people will come and people will be cool. And I knew that the wrong people would not be for me anyway, and that's okay. Not everybody's for everybody. They're never going to be. Right. And that's something that's hard as a publicist, because you're always like, how do I make somebody for everybody? Right. And that's so it's again training. But I was like, you know what? I'm throwing caution to the wind, and I'm just going to be freaking me right now. Like, it's COVID, man. Who cares? The world is burning, you know? Right. And literally happened.
With this line of business, so much misconception that we're insane or flaky, or, you know what I mean? Like, so it's like, it is very difficult, especially when you have a professional, you know, side to you. Whereas, I mean, I just jumped in the pool. I was like, all right, well, fuck it. All right, here we go. Like, you know what I mean? I didn't have this other area of my life where I had to kind of protect it. So I think it's very difficult for you, because, you know, you're dealing with big names, you're dealing with people, and you know how it is. I know enough about Hollywood to know that, like, one wrong move can fuck you forever.
Yeah, especially right now.
Right. So it's very brave that you were like, you know what, fuck this, let's do it. I mean, I think that's like, I don't think people, because everybody watching this show is weirdos just like me. They're all completely bizarre. So, which I love. It's not an insult. It's not an insult. So they're like, what do you mean? Like, why would it be hard to come out?
Yeah.
It is.
It is mainly because I wasn't coming out for just me. Right. I'm affecting everyone who knows my husband. I'm affecting everyone who knows my kids. That was the main thing, to be honest with you. I'm affecting everybody who knows my clients. Yes. And, you know, I actually came out to my parents after I came out about the podcast.
Oh, I love it.
They didn't know. And I was so scared. And my mom was literally like, read me. It was so funny. So it was awesome. But, you know, the main thing is, you are a professional and you are a business person, and at Conscious Living, it was okay because we represent people in this world. Like, that was why I built it. I love it. I want to help the world know about amazing people, right? But with my talent company, it's like these are serious actors, and these are people who there's something that they really do that is all about public persona and image, right? And I had to trust that my work is in the light. I'm working with the divine, and I can't be steered wrong. I have to trust that, and I have to trust that the right clients will want to be with me, not in spite of it, but because of it. You know what I mean? Like, and that happens. Like, I definitely have I have some clients that I don't even know really paid attention. I'm like, oh, cool, you have a podcast. Life is moving on. Nothing's changed, right? You don't care. It's not like this is this big, huge brand that I built.
Right.
And then I have some that were like, set me up with an appointment. What is this? And so it just kind of flowed, and it really wasn't a big deal. And now it's so cool because just this week I had a call with a client, and we were just going over business stuff, and I started to get downloads during the call. And normally I'm like, I seem kind of out of it, and I might seem a little distracted, and because I don't tell them, I'm literally like, shh, Spirit's talking to me, hold on. And with her, she knows all about me, and I was like, I'm getting a download. And I had one of my team, another publicist on my team, on the call, and she had never been on the phone with me telling a client, like, hold on, I have a download. So afterwards, she was like, that was crazy. But I got a download, and I'm telling her, like, oh, I'm seeing water, and I don't know why, like, and she's like, that's because that's what I've been told to do. Like, I need to be flowing with water. And it became this perfect thing, and it worked out. And I'm like, there you go. Like, I'm literally using what I can do outside of obviously healing, but also for PR. It works,
absolutely. Absolutely. So okay. So I'm back. I'm pushing the stroller. I'm back with Oda Mae Brown. And so you're doing the things, you're reading the books, you go to Kauai, and then where does the shamanic healing come in? Because that is like a niche thing. Like, people, sometimes when people are psychic, they're just like, I'm just going to be a psychic, like, I'm just going to do this. But you get into this, you like my sound effects there? That
was actually pretty good.
You get into this kind of niche, I don't know if I want to call it a business, but whatever you want to call it. Like,
So it was a few years ago, and I was in a prayer circle, and it was a New Year's prayer circle, and we were basically calling in our purpose and where we need to go next. And I knew I was at the precipice of something. Like, I knew that, like, I was like, this is going to be it. Like, I'm going to be told something. I know it. Where do I need to go here? Because I had been meditating more, and I had really been following my spirituality more than ever. I finally had let go, and, in the download, in the meditation, I hear, you are going to become a shaman, and you are going to find someone, and you're going to train, and this is going to be the next step that you have to take. And so I get out of the meditation, and I look at my sister like, oh, I can't wait. And my sister was there, and I was like, I can't wait to tell you what I just got. This is amazing. I get to the car with her, and I'm like, I got to Google shaman. Like, I barely knew what a shaman was. Like, you kind of, you assume, like, yeah, they're in the Amazon, and they have shakers and fires, and they're on drugs, and whatever.
Right.
And I didn't know what they were. I didn't know what that meant for me.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, how am I supposed to train? Am I supposed to go to Peru and, like, leave my family and my job? And it was crazy, and it was so dramatic too, because the next morning when I was talking to my husband about it, I started crying, and he was like, why are you crying? He was like, why are you crying right now? And I was like, it's just something I'm led to do. And I feel like, and I don't know why I was crying, but it was sort of like this moment of, like, I was glad that I had direction, really had, it was a serious download. So I was so glad I had direction. At the same time, I was really scared of what it meant, because I was like, am I going to lose time away from the family? Am I going to lose time away from my job that I love and need to be at? And so I think that the tears were sort of all of that. But after that, I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. And so I started talking to some people. I'm like, do you know who I can train with? And I got some names, like, you know, up in the Bay Area. And, you know, there was one here near me in Topanga that didn't answer my call because I guess it wasn't meant to be. Ironically, I found out she was like a big time person too.
Oh, wow.
And the next thing I know, I'm literally looking up, do you know the Meetup app?
Yeah.
Have you heard of me? So I had never heard of that. So first of all, I get it. And I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool. Like-minded people, find people. And I was like, I wonder if there's like a shamanic group. Like, I'll start there. Look it up. And there's a shamanic group 15 minutes away from me.
Oh, wow.
And there were like no others either. It was bizarre. So I'm like, I'm going to that. And I actually ended up taking an actor's clients of mine's mom with me. It was the weirdest. I was just like, you want to come? And she was like, okay. So strange.
I love it.
So she was on this journey with me. But I go to this group and I fall in love with the teacher, and I find out that she has private lessons and that she teaches. And the rest was technically history in the sense that I started with her. I started to remember things. But this is what's interesting about my healing or my shamanic work. So first of all, she led me to my master shamans in Mount Shasta that I really started to learn another level with. But they're in the same group. She's learned from them, and it's all tied together. But what I want to say is, with my shamanic healing, I'm not, you know, I use Florida water, I use smoke, I use sound, I do the things that I've been trained to do. But as I was learning it, I was remembering how I did it in my past lives. And again, you know, past lives. So I don't do shamanic work the way most people who, if you're like trained with Peruvian shamanism, which is what I do. And I say that loosely because I break all the rules. Like, I'm so the rebel in it. And as I was learning it, like, I would even interrupt the class sometimes and be like, well, that's not how I feel like I should do it. And it was really cool though, because my teachers, even though the line that they learned from, they broke away from too, because it was too rigid. And they were like, no, like, people need to just, it's energy. You
Right.
flow, you know what to do. And so they already had that belief system for the most part, or else I could have been with teachers that are like, you're crazy, get out of here. Like, if you're not going to do it our way, you know? But for me, it turned into its own thing. Like, as I was learning what they do, spirit was like, no, this is how you're going to do it though. And so I started to just remember everything that I already knew. And it was like, bam, I started to see energy on the body that I had never seen before.
Wow.
I started to look around the room, and I'll see, I mean, I still right now, I can see when I am like, oh, I need to sage those corners. There's built up energy in the, you know, like, I can literally see energy now.
How do you see it? How does it come out?
So it's interesting because as a medium, I see with my third eye, so I don't actually see people. Do you see people like they're people, by the way?
Like an apparition?
Like would you be confused that someone might really be there? Because I'm not. Like, I would never know.
No,
Okay.
I've never had that problem.
So you see an apparition, though?
I have seen, I've seen apparitions, but never, it's not like I'm walking down the street and I'm like, there's a ghost and there's a ghost. You know, it's like usually in a typically haunted area, I'll see
Gotcha.
that. But I don't, even when I'm working with people, I mean, I haven't worked in person with people. Oh boy. Oh my God. When was the last time I did an in-person reading? I don't know, maybe 4 years. It's been a while.
Yeah.
But even back then, I mean, it's not like I would see a physical thing with those people. I would be like, there's a presence there. And then I'd see something in my mind's eye.
Yes. So the reason I was asking you that is because as a medium, I see it in my mind's eye, right? I can tell you what they're wearing and everything, but like, they're not even, like, I know where they're standing, but they're not in front of me.
Yes.
With energy, it's different. I don't see it in my mind's eye. I see it with my eye, which is really interesting. And sometimes I can see it with my eye on a person too. Like, I've been, you know, with my Zoom sessions, for example, I've seen someone and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so much energy right here. Like, I gotta get that off, you know? And right now when I'm describing the room, it's always white, whether it's good or bad.
Yeah.
It's not dark. And although on a person, I can see sometimes dark and it can be black. But when I'm looking around the room, it's always white, and it's like cloud. It's like cloudy.
Yeah.
And it's similar to like how someone would see an aura. Like, for me, I don't see auras in colors. I see auras as like someone's within a cloud and they're like coming out of.
Yes, I'm the same way. I see very weird shit. Dark, cloudy. I can see gray. Usually it's like smoke. Like it looks like somebody's been in here smoking a cigarette and you're like, oh, there's some weird energy in this bitch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like the best way to describe it is it's cloud-like. And then when I'm looking at it though, since it's the same color, I can tell if it's dense energy. Like I know the vibration. Is it a good vibration or is it a bad vibration? Right? Is it low or high?
Right.
And so that's pretty much how I see the energy. And then if I'm ever somewhere that's like highly spiritual or like I'm in a room with a ton of people, I do see what people call orbs in pictures. Yeah. I see those with my actual eyes.
Naked eye.
I see orbs. Yeah, my naked eye. That's it. Yeah.
That's so cool. Yeah. That's way cool. So, okay. So you're doing your training. Now I have a few bizarre Auntie questions for you. The first one is, and this is by no means disrespectful. I have a backstory to this. Did this involve any spitting of any kind?
What? Well, yeah. Shaman spit. So is that what you mean?
This is a spit. Yeah. This is insane to me. And okay, so this is my backstory.
That's why everybody only wants a Zoom session with me now. No, I'm just
right. She just spit all over everybody. No, I am like flabbergasted. My aunt had a session with this shaman, and she paid just an insane amount of money. I was like, oh my God, you paid that much money for someone to spit on you? Like that's like a sex thing. Like that is not like, what the hell? So what is up with the spitting?
Okay. The only time I would spit is where's my bottles here? I'm gonna get a bottle. Is when I use this. This is called, I'm back. This is called Florida water. Okay. This water, this isn't even the right one that you're supposed to put in your mouth. I learned that the hard way.
Oh,
the cologne one.
Love it.
Literally, my teacher, when I put that in my mouth, they were like, "Get our water, spit it out!" And I was like, "Oh." You put this in your mouth. It's you don't drink it, right? You barely put it in your mouth. You hold it in your mouth a certain way, and you kind of do spit it, but it's not quite spitting. You do it because you're breaking through the barrier of energy.
Okay.
I don't do it much anymore because, again, as the rebel, you can break through energy with your mind's eye, with your intention. You can do anything.
Right.
When I'm working on someone, for example, and I'm pulling energy out of wherever on their body, I don't have to use my hand, but I do. It's just my own brain that does it. As a human, I do it, and it makes sense to me. But I can just sit here right now and take energy off of your body because I see it and I'm intending it. Right. So, and this could get me on a whole tangent, but because you don't even technically need the water, right? So, do you technically need sage?
Right.
Whole thing. Right. So, I don't do that so much anymore just because I don't like the process. I don't like the taste. It was really funny at first doing it because I would do it to my kids and my husband a lot just because I was messing with them. But you don't have to do that. You don't, and it is very much so part of the training, and it's something to believe. And I with how rebellious I am, I don't want to seem disrespectful at all.
Right, it does, but yeah,
it is an amazing thing. Everybody's different though, like you learn as a masseuse that you're supposed to do a sweetest massage a certain way, and then you go your own way and it works better for your client, So that's how I see it, but that's what the spitting's about. You break the barrier.
Gotcha.
Of energy that way versus just shooting it at them or anything. So what I do now though is I give it to them. Well, before COVID, when I would see people in person, I would have them pour it in their hand, and then they clap 3 times to break the barrier.
I love that.
Because it's intention.
That's pretty cool.
Smell it because it sets it. I mean, the reason I do like this, and the reason why sage is good and stuff is like it also like the smell and the senses again as a human does something for you, right? And then they clear themselves off, which they would still do with the spit. But I don't go and I don't do this.
Right. Interesting. Okay. Second question. Did you have to do like a vision quest type thing as like graduation?
Yes.
How do you know when you're done?
How do you know when you're done?
You know what I mean? You're doing training, and then is there a, is there a point where they're like, okay, you do this last thing and then you're not really training with me anymore. You're off on your own. Like, how do you know?
Okay. So not for me. I'm still, if there wasn't COVID, I still would take other programs because there's more and more and more and more and more stuff you can learn. They're workshops. It's always something different. It's always something new. And I'm always a student. At the end of the day, you can never stop learning about spirit. I always love to say, the more you learn, the less you know, right?
Right.
So no, like I never, that's an interesting question because like I never graduated. I never got a certificate. There's nothing like that. And honestly, that's why I don't walk around calling myself a shaman. That's one of the reasons why. But I say I do shamanic work, right? Because it's shamanically trained or whatever I use. I'm very careful, again, as a publicist. I'm aware of the branding and everything, and I want to be honest. But I don't call myself a shaman, partially because of the indigenous roots to it. And I don't know. I just feel like that's stealing something from them. Yeah. And in a way, it's almost, I'm sensitive about appropriation. I don't even want to go there. Yeah. But like, I don't want to even go there, So it's like, I've been trained by it. I respect it. But you know what? What I do at the end of the day is energetic spirit work. And so I take their practices, and yes, I love sound clearing. And so I will use sound. I'll either use a shaker or I'll use a drum and take that energy and loosen the energy off of the body. I can actually, with my shaker, I create patterns of how I watch the energy leave and go into an altar or whatever it is. But there was never a program, so to speak. You can buy them, you can go to school, and it's very expensive, to be honest. To each his own, you know what I mean? And it's really about, at the end of the day, you never had to go to school to be psychic. You just are, And so for me, I technically didn't have to go to school to do shamanic energy work because I remember, but it helped me remember. Right. So.
Right. That's very cool. Very cool. So, okay. We got to talk about what you did for me, because this is like, so you guys, let's just dive into this. So this is wild. So Mona says, I'm going to gift you a session with me. And of course I was like, hell yes, girl, let's do this. So we did a Zoom session and I was completely unprepared. Just so everybody knows, I had no idea what was coming. I had no idea what was happening. I was like, I don't know what she's going to do. She could be batshit crazy for all I know. Like, I don't know. She's not batshit, by the way. She's fabulous. So we're good there. But, I went into it kind of like, I literally don't know how this is going to work. And my experience of it was basically so fucking good that I was like, I'm going to hire you now. Now you got it, girl. That's what just happened. So she gets you nice and relaxed. This is number one. You get very nice and relaxed. We did it over Zoom. So I'm like on my own couch and very, very chill. And I thought there was going to be a lot more to it, but it was like I was going to have to do stuff, like weird stuff for some reason. Well, after my aunt, like she's getting spit on and she kept peeing everywhere. It was a whole thing. So I was like, I don't know what's going to happen. She said she like 20 times during her shamanic healing. And, wow. And the shaman was like, no, that's supposed to happen. And I was like, that lady lied to you. I don't think you're supposed to be peeing 20 times in an hour. But anyway, so I digress. Walk us through your process if you don't mind.
Okay. So obviously I have to say the disclaimer of everybody's different. And so every session will be different based on what the needs are and what I see in someone. And there are certain tools that I have and certain practices, like things called the soul regression, things like that will come up. But for a general first time session, I'll walk you through that. I'll put it that way. So I do get someone into a relaxed state. We do this through breathing, and I also start energy work on them before they even know it, in the sense of I'm holding space for them. I've called their guides, I've called their angels, and I've invited loved ones in the light that want to come participate. Okay. And oftentimes I'll see loved ones in the light. There's always, I just put this together, quite honestly, the other day, where there's always like the dominant loved one in the light that's like, I'm going to be the one, like, everybody quiet, everybody stand back. I'm going to be the one that's like here for this person right now. And that's always interesting. And sometimes it turns into a mediumship read at the end because of that, but we'll get there. So we get into this relaxed state. And then when I feel like again, it's intuition and reading someone's energy. When I feel like it's time, we go into the body and I ask for permission to go into your space because it's not about trespassing. And I will then do something called unwinding the chakras, because for me, those are the points where I can really just, it's kind of my portal of just being able to go in. And that is not, a lot of what I'm saying here is not what shamans do. This is how I've turned it into my sort of thing.
Right.
From what I believe, not too many people that I know of do this my way, and incorporate all these different things necessarily. Although I did talk to one person recently that was a little similar to me, which was shocking. But I digress. Going into the system, I start at the root and I start to unwind. And as I do that, I start to pay attention to where they're heavy, because spirit is amazing and spirit knows how much time we're going to have, what's going to get cut off, and where that person needs me the most.
Oh, wow.
And so, yes, everything's going to clear off of them, but the places that they are ready to heal the most or need to heal the most, because it's, again, I always say, like the onion layer of like, are you ready to shed the first layer, or are you shedding so many I'm getting right down to the meat and potatoes of what your problem is? So I start to clear that energy. As I'm clearing the energy, I know if it's pain, I know if it's sadness. A lot of times this is when my empathic work comes in, because I'm not usually a day-to-day empath. I rarely do feel that. I can if I choose to, but in this, I will feel if you have a neck pain somewhere, and I will know exactly where it is on my body as I track you. And so this is where I've just opened myself up to basically know, what is this person going through that I'm allowed to know, that I'm supposed to know, I'm allowed to know.
Right.
So I don't necessarily know every single dark thing that's happened to someone or whatever it may be. It's what in that time, knowing that time frame and everything, that person is going to deal with. So that's where we go. And I start to literally work with energy. Like it sounds so weird, but sometimes I negotiate with it to come out. Sometimes I pull it out like a rope. Sometimes it's just very gently just coming out, and I'm just like, awesome, and then while this is happening, I work with the client and say, breathe, because you are your own healer. I'm here to help facilitate. At the end of the day, if you don't want to heal, if you don't want to let something go, you're the boss.
That's true.
And so as the client's there, I will say, okay, and I'll start tracking it, right? I'll start seeing it. And that's why I tend to look away a lot, because that's me using this, right? And so I'll start tracking it, and I'll say, okay, like I get images, and sometimes I get movies. Sometimes I'll get a movie of what happened to them that made that blockage. Or sometimes I'll get images. Like yesterday, one of my clients had a lot of throat chakra block, and she had a brick wall as a picture for me. And I knew that needs to break. It's really, really blocked. And so I said, let's work with it. And as she started to work with it, and I walked her through the breathing, and as we were doing, and I was trying to pry the energy off of her through my shaker and sound healing to break the energy up and get it looser, I saw this brick wall break in a center like a hole.
Wow.
And so I knew that something's clearing, but it's not all cleared. So I know she needs more work. And it's the visual, right? So I got a visual like that. So basically the session is, I can go on and on about what sessions are like, and based on other people, and I don't want to take time talking to you forever about just this, but that's basically the first step of the process, is just the energetic removal, so to speak, right? What are they ready to heal? What am I supposed to know? Is their loved one telling me? Sometimes they're there and they're like, I'm so sorry this happened to you. Like I'll hear them talking to the client. I'm so sorry this happened to you. I'm so sorry I didn't stand up to them for you. Whatever it might be, because a lot of times it's children. It's the person as a child or whatever, right? Sometimes they'll tell me to tell them something at the end. There's all kinds of things that go on. Oftentimes I'll see loved ones laying hands on the person to help them heal. It's really beautiful.
Wow.
I'll see guides come in to do certain things. I'll see angels. Angels are really neat. Oftentimes angels take, at least for me, because we all can translate energy in our own way, and we kind of, with our own movie, but they take on sort of, like they have a lot of cloaks, and like they're almost like religious looking figures, and I'm not religious at all. And I actually know very little about religion, which I think helps me sometimes not see these images. So if I do, I know that it's because of the person.
Right.
But it's really fascinating who comes in and is involved. I have a spirit team that works with me, and so one of my guides is a healing assistant, basically. And when I'm putting light back in, so after I'm jumping ahead. After we
do that,
remove the energy, after it's the Gemini, after we remove the energy, then we fill the void, because literally you are empty. There's things there that if we don't fill those up right away, whatever energies around you will then come and fill the void.
Right.
And so we don't want that. We want the best energy possible. So I then channel light into you. And this is where my healing assistant, sometimes if there's two parts of someone, I'll be like, I really need to concentrate on this. You take this. And I'll see my spirit guide taking that and channeling the light through. It's me and my body, because that's what I am. I'm facilitating the energy into the 3D, basically, into the material, right? But they will help me do that. Sometimes, again, it's someone's loved one in the light that's like putting their hands on them with me, putting the light in.
Wow.
Something that I do too is based on where the energy is and what they were feeling, I can now see sort of numbers of frequencies. And so I know, this is very new, but I now know, like, okay, so to fill the void that we just took off of the neck, I need to get to this level of frequency. Got it. Okay. And like, I'll listen to what it is and I'll dial into that literal number of level of the frequency. And like, I'm just, for lack of a better term, 4 hertz frequency, right? Whatever might come to me. And then that's what I'll channel, because that's what they need in that specific void to fill it up for their greatest healing. Since I started to do that, I find that people are way more out of it when they're coming back, because it's like really aligning them and changing everything. And I've been hearing a lot more people be like, whoa, I'm a little out of it, right? And which I think is great, because it means that they've been altered even more. And it depends on how sensitive someone is. Some people aren't as sensitive to energy. And ironically, if you're really sensitive to energy, sometimes you can handle it better and you don't feel as disoriented. Sometimes you're way more disoriented because of it. It's weird. So you never know what you're going to get, but that's what I do. That's the energy portion. From there, then sometimes I still know they need to clear. So we usually have a chat after that, and I'll still allow the root to feel if there's a lot in the root. Often it's the root that needs to clear out, whatever it might be. And we start to talk. And I will have likely, if it's not too, if it's complicated, I will have taken notes.
Right.
And sometimes I'm lighting sage. It's just, again, everything. I'm trying to include everything I do.
Right.
But I then have a conversation with you, like we did, and then I'll say, okay, methodically speaking, let's go from root to top, and this is what I saw, and this is what it is, and how does this relate to you? How are you going to translate what I just saw? Let's have a conversation. And that's where the psychic read for some people comes in, basically.
Right.
But I'm not the psychic that you see because you're wondering about life necessarily.
Yeah, no, that's me.
Yeah. It's like, what I do is how are we healing you? It's like, and I don't want to say this word because it's technically like it's illegal, but it's like almost like psychic therapy. You know what I mean? It's like, that's what it's like. It's psychic healing.
Right.
And I know what people need to hear. And some people, they go to psychics, but then they also come to me.
Right.
And they also go to a therapist, and they find how this all works together and the puzzle pieces all work together for them. Because at the end of the day, when you're working out everything in your mind, because what's interesting about seeing a psychic is you're working on your mind. Like,
right.
Quite honestly, I would love to see a psychic sometimes over a therapist, because they're telling me what I want to know in certain ways where you're just sitting there and it's bugging you and you're wondering, right?
Right, exactly.
Once you figure that out, whether you go to a psychic, you go to a therapist, whoever you go to, you're holding this in, or it's created a new energy that just came into you. So then that's where I oftentimes come in and take it off of you.
Exactly.
You know
what I loved about, I love the whole experience. And don't worry, you guys, you will get your chance with Mona. We're going to get you all the information that you need if you want to see her. So, but I love the after report. That was like because it's like, it reminds me of, this is gross, but this is what it reminds me of. Like when my esthetician will like get all the blackheads out, and then like I look over on the table and there's like all these little blackheads. It's so gross. It's so gross.
I don't think anyone will ever compare it to that ever again. You are such an original, my
I really am. That's like I know. I am. I can't help it. But it was like this report where you're like, I found this here and I found this here and I found this here. And I'm like, fuck yes, dude. I want to know all of that. So what's really weird, this is interesting. So you found something very unusual hanging out in my heart chakra. Will you tell them about this? Because this is so bizarre. Okay.
So, and sometimes I don't remember everything, but I remember this one because this was the first. So a lot of times in the heart, that's especially where I'll get like a movie or I'll get a really interesting image and I'll pull something out of the heart chakra, out of the heart space. For you, most of the time it's someone as a child or someone as a teen or the year, and I pull that out. That's what it appears like. For you, we took out a snake.
A snake! A snake! A snake with eggs. With fucking eggs.
Or 4 or 5 eggs.
It was like, she goes, I've never seen, I'm laying there, she gave me the report and I'm loving it. I'm looking at all my spiritual blackheads and whatnot. And like, then she goes, dude, the weirdest thing, like, I pulled this snake out of your, and I was like, what the F? I mean, and you said you'd never experienced this, like you'd never seen anything like that.
No, I mean, it threw me because usually what I see and I take out, one, I get a download on it too. Like, so I'm like, oh, well, I just pulled you, like yesterday, I pulled out a little girl. She was around the age 6 and I told the client, like, I pulled out you at age 6 and this is why, because this happened to you. And I give them the story. With you, I was like, and it had eggs. So I don't know if maybe someone was snaky and it was snaky energy of someone we were pulling out. Like we kind of went over like certain things that it could be,
and we never really came to a conclusion, which is the weirdest thing. I'm fine with. I mean, it's gone, so I'm good with that. But that was one of my most favorite experiences ever. Like to have somebody be like, I took a snake and a bunch of eggs out of your heart space. I'm like, fuck yes, dude. What a life. No, seriously. Like I am in. I'm all
never said that before, ever.
You probably never are going to say it again.
It's very interesting. I wish I knew. I should meditate on it and get that answer, actually.
I have been sitting there like ever since we did it, and I'm just like, I still don't know. I ran cards on. I'm looking at cards and
seriously, wow.
Yeah. I saw some people. So you said you were like, well, I think it's a masculine energy. So I'm running cards.
Yeah.
And I got actually 3 different people in the cards. And I had one main suspect, and it was not that person, which is very interesting. It was a woman. It was 2 women and a man. 3 separate.
Which can be, masculine energy can be a woman, definitely.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So I mean, that's as far as I got. I mean, even looking at the cards, I was like, well, who are you? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I still to this day don't know. It's a very interesting situation, which is, by the way, it's abnormal because I'm abnormal. So you guys will have a different experience, I'm sure. I don't think anybody's going to have the same thing. Oh my gosh. Okay. So I want to wrap it up here. We've kept you long enough, but I have one more question and then let's tell everybody how to find you. But my one more question is, why did you decide to start a podcast?
I decided to start, for the past year or so, I felt like there was just a lot I wanted to communicate with people, and I wanted them to just kind of be open to my energy. I don't know why, it's just something I felt called to, but I kept brushing it off. Like, I'm busy. I don't know if I can do this. Will I even be good at it? I questioned myself. And after after COVID and after I had hurt my leg, there was one night that I had tore my calf muscle and I couldn't sleep. The pain was so bad. I stayed up all night, and then finally during the witching hours of 3 a.m., I started getting downloaded hard, a lot of information to the point where I had to pull my phone out and just write notes.
Wow.
And it was telling me things that I needed to do for business, and just a ton of stuff. And it was like, and do your podcast. You have to do a podcast, call it Conscious Healing. It just kind of spelled it out for me.
Wow.
And just like my shamanic stuff, so when I get a download like that, I know to do it. I just don't even question it. And so I started it. And as I was doing it, I was like, I know some really cool people. Like, this is going to be easy, you know? And I have a lot of fun with it. I treat it like, for anybody who's really new to this world, I like to make sure they feel really comfortable with the concepts, because I will go over, I mean, I'm going over why past lives aren't real, why past lives aren't past lives. They're simultaneously, right?
Yeah,
so there's things like that we discuss. And like, even with yours, it's like, you have to come back. We talked about this because we went super beginner, you know, but like, I want to get to places where I'm going to be like, all right, for those of you who heard that, now let's dive in. And for those of you who are super into tarot, let's dive in, you know? So I'm really just trying to find this balance of like, no matter where you're at, that you'll have fun listening to it, you know, and you'll learn something and you'll enjoy something. And at the end of the day, it's the publicist in me that wants to have the world know about cool ass people, you know, like that's the main thing. It's like having my guests on, so far it's just been friends, you know, people I know, people we're cool with, you know. I might eventually just have people on that have a topic that's like really interesting to me, and I don't happen to be friends with someone who can cover that. But for now, it's just been, you know, it's fun for people to listen, because it's like this right now. It's like we're just kind of talking. It's normal. Like I forget sometimes that we're doing this for your show, right? Like I'm like, we're just talking again, right? So yeah, and that's the way I wanted it to be. Is just really natural. I don't overthink it. I don't overproduce it. I have bullet points just because the Gemini in me, like if I don't, I will just talk and babble forever. And you can tell sometimes where I'm like going on a tangent because I didn't have bullet points. But, you know, I love it. It's been super fun and I really enjoy doing it. It doesn't feel like work at
all. I love that. I love that.
I'm excited for our episode.
I'm excited. I want to have you back on this show because honestly, I feel like you and I, now that everybody knows you, now that you've had the introduction, we could just bullshit and I feel like people are going to love it. Like we sat here and talked about Ouija boards for 30 minutes. People would be like, fuck yes, I'm here. Like they would be here for it, girl. They'd be here for it. They'll tell you. Look at the comments. Like
crazy Ouija board stories too.
Dude. Right? No, seriously. So yeah, you got to come back on here because it's too fun. It's too good. Okay. So how can people contact you that want sessions with you?
So the best way to contact me is to go to my website or my Instagram. My website is Conscious Healing Co. So Conscious Healing and then co.com. And my Instagram is @healingwithmona. And you can just send me an email through the website or send me a DM through that, and I will respond to you.
You guys, it's a very unique and powerful experience, and I definitely recommend it. I don't think you're going to find snakes in y'all's hearts. I think that's just a weird.
Everybody's like, no, I'm good. I don't want snakes pulled out.
Right? They're going to be like, oh, or maybe it'll be reverse psychology. Be like, I got to see her. I got to get the snakes out. I might have snakes too.
The eggs are way worse. Get the eggs out.
Right? So messed up. It's so messed up. Also, by the way, you guys, I should FYI you, Grammy did make an appearance with Mona's session. They know Grammy because Ghost rented her house right after she passed, and that bitch showed up on camera, and one of my patrons caught it.
That's so cool.
I can call her that bitch because that's the relationship we had, by the way.
That's so cool.
We did live streaming in the house, and they didn't see anything live on camera. They saw nothing. But somebody went back, was watching it the next day because they couldn't, make the live stream. And she was like, wait a minute. So she pauses it and she looks and she looks and she was like, there is a face right next to you. So she blows it up. She sends it to me. And I look, and they don't know what my grandmother looks like. That's the thing. I didn't show any pictures because I didn't want to invade privacy. And I'm going, oh my God, it's her. Like it is her. I took the ghost picture and a picture of Grammy side by side, and it's her.
Well, she has a really strong energy. So and the ones that have the strongest energy, and oftentimes it's because as humans, they believed in this already.
Oh, yeah.
They can manifest that much better. So they're the ones that I can see better and show up better. And, you know, she had like, I remember I told you, I'm like, she has this like rock and roll kind of vibe. Like I kept associating with the 80s. Like, I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, that's Grammy. Yeah. Yeah. She has experience, you guys.
That's amazing that you saw her like that. That's cool.
And then the podcast is the Conscious Healing Podcast with Mona Loring.
Yes, and that's on iTunes and Spotify, like anywhere that you
can find it anywhere. You guys, I do recommend it. It's really good, especially if you're like right now, if you're kind of like, I want to know more about a certain and she's covering like every subject you could think of, by the way. Any woo-woo subject, she's got it.
I'm trying to cover it all.
So
there's a lot. I have a long list that I want to go into.
And a lot of these guests you have, I'll just include myself in there because my ego won't allow me not to. But no, a lot of these guests that you have, they're so interesting and so knowledgeable, and they're like people that I'm just like, I want to know more about what this person is talking about. You know what I mean? Like it's killer. It's killer. And the information you're giving out, her personal story is on there. It's just beautiful. So check that out. And then you also have a festival coming up.
Ooh, yeah. We have the Conscious Spirit Festival coming up October 18th. And we're basically just getting like-minded people together that are into the woo-woo, so to speak. And we have a really great astrologer, and we have a medium, and we just have a number of lineups. It starts with yoga for the day, which I thought some people would want, and some people are like, I don't care, so they're going to sleep and enjoy it.
Right.
It just depends. But it's really just covering all things high vibe, spiritual, woo-woo, and it's like a whole day virtual festival that's going to be on Zoom, and it should be really fun. And you can check that out if you go to my business partner, Spirit Guides Media's website. So look up Spirit Guides because that's cool, you guys, Spirit Guides Media. And if you go to that website and you go to the festival link, you'll find information.
Okay. And I'll put all the links in the box. I promise I won't forget. I always forget, but I promise.
And we have to have you on when we do it.
I would love that. I would love that. So we're going to say goodbye, ladies and gentlemen. I want to say thank you to Mona very much for not only that amazing session, but having me on her show and coming on my show. I want to say thank you to Miss Cameron for introducing us. Shout out to you, Miss Lady. You guys, I do love you. I do adore you. Be well. Thank you.